Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I'm going to be showing you a perfected, almost fully min-maxed summoner build that is perfect for DLC 3 right out the gate. Basically what this build aims to achieve is to make content within DLC 1, 2 and 3 as easy as possible. And from experience, this does sweep everything in Trials of the Dragon King, obviously, because that's old content, and this, you know, being level 500 and just very strong in general will sweep that. As for DLC 2, if you've seen my recent videos, you'll know that it sweeps all of the regular content, and I did already beat the Labyrinth past, you know, floor 100, so this build will definitely sweep there. The version I'm showing you here, however, will not really include much of the Labyrinth because a lot of things are very skewed and, you know, altered in there, since you can add every single job affinity to 400 plus for free without doing anything, without even needing any gear. So, you know, I don't really want to bait people into that. I want to show people something that can be used everywhere, including DLC 3, right off the bat to get them, you know, to complete all of that basic content so that they can start grinding for new stuff in DLC 3 when it comes out. So let's get into this. So if you're unfamiliar with the summoner job, essentially what it is that you will use your R2 ability and you'll become Bahamut. You can play as Bahamut instead of Jack, and you get like a whole new moveset and whatnot. And basically while you're playing as Bahamut, it will drain your max MP and your regular MP at once. And that's it. That's pretty much summoner. You just play as Bahamut and you go crazy. As for the Evocation and the Ultima side of summoner, it doesn't really matter which one you choose to use. You know, the abilities that you gain from them don't actually mean anything to the build. Just choose whichever one gives you the most stats, really, and that's about it. So for the job affinities on the summoner class itself, I recommend going for 600% Dragoon. The reason why we want this is because you can recover HP and MP whenever you exploit an enemy's weakness. Now, thanks to the Mighty Strike's command ability, which I'll get to later, every single attack from Bahamut will count as a weakened hit, which means that you will always recover HP and MP regardless, because every hit is weakened. And then also, because we have 600%, we also get the 400% ability, which is going to increase our attack speed, while in Lightbringer, which does stack with Lunatic. And then you get a few extra bonuses here and there, which are really helpful for the build too. Next up, we have Dark Knight, also at 600, which is basically going to recover HP based on the amount of MP that we're gaining from normal attacks. So thanks to Mighty Strikes and Dragoon, and also regular MP gained from normal attacks, we're going to get quite a lot of HP out of that, making us basically unkillable. Then we have the 400% ability, which is going to activate all near-death abilities at all times. They'll always be active no matter what, which is insanity for the build, and we will cover more on this later. And then we also have, you know, near-death stuff along with this, which is going to be active thanks to that 400 ability. Then we have Night, which is basically going to grant us complete immunity while Lightbringer is active. So we were already basically unkillable thanks to the HP regen we were gaining from everything previously, but now we have Night in here, which is going to make us actually invulnerable while Lightbringer is active. Lightbringer is a big part of this build, so this is very powerful. Next up, we have Breaker at 400% as well, which is going to increase damage dealt after a successful soul burst. This is more for clearing rooms of enemies rather than actually taking down bosses, although you can use this against bosses as well, obviously, because you will finisher them. They have different phases you can finisher and make use of Breaker, but this is mostly for clearing enemies, and it is going to make the build very strong. Then we have the 250 ability on High Summoner, which is going to decrease the sustained MP cost, so basically passive drain of MP, which Bahamut does. It has a passive MP drain, so we can reduce that. Then we have the 120 ability for both Berserker and Samurai, which is going to reduce the MP casting costs of abilities, and also reduce the break gauge, or refill the break gauge, sorry, on damage dealt, which is just very nice to have for Bahamut, since he's very easy to get knocked down. So very good stuff. That's all of the job abilities. But now I want to mention accessories. So the good thing about these new accessories from DLC 2 is that you can get 400% abilities built into the accessory. So for example here I have Brotherhood, which is Inner Instinct, which is actually just Berserker's 400% ability, which is going to gradually restore MP while Lightbringer is active. The great thing about this is that it will completely negate that MP drain that Bahamut passively has, thanks to the Summoner 250% ability being paired with it. There are a couple other accessories I recommend you use in this build. First is Brotherhood, obviously for this skill right here. The second is the Dusk Shard, which is the 400% Evoker ability, and that is going to regen MP when you have max health. So that's basically going to do the same thing, but without needing Lightbringer. And then the third one is the Ribbon, which is basically going to make you immune to all status effects. I only recommend using this in the higher levels of the Labyrinth, not really regular content, but it is still really, really, really good either way. So for the ult job, really all you need to have is either White Mage, Tyrant, or Ninja. Honestly, everything in this second job is completely optional. We're never really using this. Tyrant, it's just there for extra damage if you decide to go that route. And for White Mage and Ninja, it's just there for MP. I do highly recommend Ninja or White Mage so that you have max MP for every single fight and every single boss fight and every single, battle against big enemies and whatever. Since you can chain cancel infinitely with 120 Summoner and Evoker 400, you can use accessories to hit that 400 Evoker as well if you decide you want to go down that route. But yeah, the ult job is pretty much just there for MP. So moving on to our actual equipment effects, so the perks on our gear. Highly recommend going for anything that decreases the cost of your command abilities, anything that increases the damage of summon flat, just straight up. Go for strength or intellect. You want strength to increase the damage of your physical hits, which is mostly what you'll be doing as Bahamut. But intellect is also really nice because it equals the amount of MP you get back from regular hits. I personally haven't gone for much of that, but if you want to, you can. And then you just want like Lightbringer Duration or during Lightbringer damage dealt / near death damage dealt, since pretty much all of that will be active at all times. So go for most of what you see here on the screen. Try and min-max it as much as possible, get as much of it as possible, highest tiers as possible, and that's it for the ability. For our command abilities, we want to be using Mighty Strikes. As mentioned earlier, this is going to make every attack weak to enemies, so we can make use of a lot of the weaken-based stuff, including Lancet here, which is another command ability, which is going to recover HP and MP whenever you exploit an enemy weakness, which of course will stack with the 600 ability on Dragoon. Then we also have Lunatic, which is going to increase our attack speed, which does also stack with the 400 ability on Dragoon, making all of our attacks very fast, restore MP and HP a ton. Then we have Lightbringer, the main catalyst of the build. We're completely invincible with this, and it's going to last a really long time. We're going to do lots of damage with this. It's awesome. Lightbringer is amazing, and as for the gameplay at the start and the end, you can see why it's really strong. Then finally we have the Blessings, which is honestly mostly optional. I have Odin here for bosses specifically, since some of the bosses will actually buff up and make your Mighty Strikes useless. So if they do that, Odin can counter that and make it reapply weak again. They'll always be weak to Odin, no matter what, so Odin's very strong. However, you can run Leviathan in regular content against just enemies in general, since when you Soul Burst, not only will you get more damage from Breaker, but you'll also get tons of MP and max MP. And if you don't have Odin, or you don't plan to use that, or a boss isn't going to buff, then you can use Rama, which is going to give you more MP back for regular hits. And then finally I have Phoenix here, which is just basically a Phoenix down for free, without using the re-raise perk. So, you can have this as well if you're a little scared of a certain boss or whatever, but that's Blessings. Now, last but not least, here are my job mastery points for Summoner. I have 52 Strength and 34 Intellect. Try and get as much of that as possible. Balance them out if you need to, doesn't really matter. You will need 12 points in Summoner there to actually get the 250 ability without needing gear. Then you want as much near-death damage dealt and damage dealt at max HP as possible, as those will always be active. Then you want during Lightbringer damage dealt and Lightbringer Duration as well, as much of that as possible, as, those are very, very important for the build. And then I have MP recovery rate with normal attacks, which is optional, but I do very much like, since I want as much MP as I can get. And then I have buff duration. So that's pretty much it for the mastery points. Not much else to say there. Once, you know, this is all said and done, this is kind of what your stat distribution should look like. This is what roughly you should have after copying this build pretty much to a T. Obviously, I can still improve my armor upgrades a little bit, but that is so difficult to do at this stage in the game that this is pretty much as good as it's going to get. So that's it for the build. Not much else to say. Hopefully you enjoyed this regardless. Let me know what you think of the build, of course, and how it can be improved on a, you know, much larger scale. Of course, this build is 100% fit for DLC 3. I'm very excited for that, and of course I will probably update this as well in DLC 3 when, you know, they add a ton of different stuff. But yeah, again, that's it for the build. Thanks for watching, and adios.
Solo!